what made you decide that you wanted to be a teacher?
I actually was 50-50 on university and high school teaching. And I was 50-50 for a while, and on my master's degree, one of my professors pulled me in and he goes, "You don't want to do this."
What would be your advice to some of those, young minds who might be at the same age context where you were back then to think about getting into education as a teacher? How can they start their journey? How can they think about being a teacher?
I felt a kind of anguish around the education I got. I wanted to offer a better experience for young people than I experienced. So there was a kind of burning desire to kind of correct some wrongs. And if I could play a small part in that, then so be it.
What would be your recommendation for them to sort of build that career to take the next step in their education teacher journey?
Get comfortable with the AI very quickly. Get comfortable. I mean, you can fight it all you want, but AI is easing the pain points many of us felt pre this technology.
What you did with you led the first traveling high school, Think Global School. So walk us through that journey, how it came about, and just introduce that whole concept to the audience.
I worked with Think Global School for 12 years. It was a great journey. And I've got to say, there was some really, really great heads before me. Two guys called Alan Cooper and Jamie Steckout. They led the school before me. And when Jamie moved on, I took over with a leadership team. And it was a crazy ride.
That's what I was curious, like, how did the students do in terms of university admissions, and did that align with their admission processes?
These students are managing projects. They're not sat in a class waiting for an exam. It's all about the journey, and you're designing for the journey.
And you've consistently said that we have to be seeing AI that it's accelerating learning and not replacing it.
Well, I think we have to be honest. It's going to replace something. I don't think it's just going to be a co-pilot of everything. I think some things, and I think that'll be good leadership. I think good leaders will identify where AI can replace human hours and then free up them hours for other things. So I think AI can replace in some areas. There's huge parts of curriculum development AI can replace endless hours.
Welcome to Inspired, the podcast where forward-thinking educators, founders, and visionaries share the struggles, stories, and the strategies shaping the future of learning. I'm your host, Ankur Gupta, and today's episode is an invitation to rethink not just how we educate, but why. Some people enter education to follow the system, others step in to challenge it. Our guest today, John Cailey, is one of those rare voices who doesn't just question old models, he prototypes new ones. He's worked across 6 continents over the last 15 years, reimagining schools as living ecosystems of curiosity, failure, and courage. He doesn't throw around words like future ready or innovation, he builds for them and invites others to do the same. From leading the world's first traveling school to launching Elam Studio in Dubai, he's shown us that learning can be as agile as the world around us. In a time of AI and uncertainty, he reminds us the path forward isn't fear, it's design, presence, and bold intent. He calls himself a stone in the shoe of education, and maybe that's exactly what we need. Russell, welcome to Inspired. It's great to have you on the show.
Great to be here. Thank you for having me.
I'm glad that we were able to do this, and to have you in India and in Jaipur, where we're shooting this. I think it's one of those things that it's come together for us to have this conversation today. So thank you for agreeing to be here today, and we look forward to our conversation. And I've been fascinated with your story for at least 2 years now. When I first heard about that, there's this whole concept of a traveling school. So I'm going to get into that, but let's take a step back, and I want to start with sort of where it all started for you. You're from Manchester. Mm-hmm. You were a teacher in sociology, mm-hmm. I believe. From there to what ended up being that now you're running Elam Studio, and very progressive education curriculum designs that you're working on. So help us walk through, and our audience, who may not know your backstory, so just sort of give us a little bit of an overview on that.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in Manchester. Was kind of your average student.
Okay.
Wasn't fantastic, but wasn't bad. Kind of got through, decent scores, and I guess education was kind of blah for me. I showed up, went through the motions, jumped the hoops.
Yeah.
Loved the sport element of school. Did a lot of interform and school representation of cricket and football. So I kind of lived for that and kind of just tolerated school, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Without being terrible. I certainly wasn't disruptive. I think I was a polite student. Then I kind of went through this on my TED Talk, was the idea that I then went to college, which in the UK is between 16 and 18.
Yep.
For anyone who's in the American audience, it's
Yep.
a little different.
Yes.
And it turned up, and grades just about got me over the line, just about qualified. And there was this course popped up, sociology, didn't really know what it was about. Got a walkthrough on the day, and it was kind of interesting, the study of people, the study of systems, studies of frameworks. So ended up taking that alongside history and sports science, and really enjoyed it. And then ended up, I played cricket at quite a decent level as well.
Oh, nice.
So my two passions were kind of sociology and history and sport. And then went into had a career outside of education for a while. And then around 24, 25, trained as a teacher, which I think did me good. I think that leaving it a few years, I really don't know how people who go straight from university into teaching at 21, 22, 23, I don't know how they do it. Yeah. Hats off to them. But I needed a few years to settle. Did a master's degree, and then kind of just settled down a bit, found, got comfortable in my own skin, or got a little more comfortable in my own skin. And then, trained as a teacher. Went back to my old college in Manchester, did 7 years back there, which I enjoyed. I felt I had to give back. The college is in an area called Moss Side, which suffered a lot of gang violence in the 80s and 90s. It was renowned for that. And you went out. The college was great. The college won a lot of awards.
Area.
It was the area, You kind of, in the 90s, you went out and you genuinely, you went out with a bit of a, am I going to come back in one piece?
Oh, wow.
But it was great. Did 7 years there. Learned my trade. I think that was the key thing. I learned my craft as an educator, as a teacher. How you control the space, how you move from activity, the flow of a lesson, the arc of a course or a module.
Okay.
So I felt I learned my craft there. And that's where it all started, And then I'm sure you'll get onto the Think Global stuff later.
Absolutely.
But that was the start.
But I want to pause for a second and understand this. Like, what made you decide that you wanted to be a teacher, right? Like, what sparked that interest to be a teacher for you?
I actually was 50-50 on university and kind of high school teaching. And I was 50-50 for a while, and on my master's degree, one of my professors pulled me in and he goes, "You don't want to do this." He goes, "You want no part of this." He goes, "All we do is kind of write books and papers." He goes, your energy is working with other people." And he goes, the lecture hall, and it sounds a bit harsh, but he was actually being very nice about it. He said the lecture hall and the research element, he goes, "I don't think's for you." And I kind of sat with that for a bit, and I was like, he's probably right. I do find a lot of joy in it. I like my own space, but I also like the interaction. But I didn't really like the primary and lower middle didn't really appeal to me. I wanted to work on the sharp end of things, that kind of. So that's where I went into kind of the A-level system, which was 16 to 18 exclusively. It was a college, so it was exclusively 16 to 18 and 19. There were some courses that went beyond that as well. So I didn't teach on them, but I did A-level. So that's so what attracted me was working with those youth that I felt were going into adulthood, that were grappling with things like gangs. We had just those in a place like Moss Side, in a place like Manchester, in the back end of the 90s. It was just it was grappling with a lot of stuff, I would say. how does one navigate through? How does one access the job market? It was tough back then. It was really tough. I mean, I was saying this to a friend the other day. I remember there was only like a handful of careers. I felt it was like a couple of things in finance, law, and a few. There wasn't much. I really feel like the job market today is so dynamic.
You've got a lot more variety of options available out there.
And that might have been my own like ignorance, but I felt there wasn't much. So anyway, but I was passionate about education. I did want to work with people, with kids from my background, and I don't know. I've been grappling with this for a while. I'm not sure. I wouldn't say we got a raw deal. I think the teachers where I went to high school, where I did my A levels, pre-university experience. I think the teachers did the best they could. But with very much limited resources.
It's always a context of what time and place you are and the resources. I mean, obviously, if you go back to the same place today, it's probably much different than when we were in school. So that's obviously sort of evolution, that everyone's growing in their respective space, in their respective context, so to speak. But it's amazing how you walk me through that self-discovery journey for yourself. And a lot of the audience, I mean, we all know that the world needs a lot more number of teachers with with the growing dynamics of obviously population plus the variety of curriculums coming in, and any school leader you talk to, school teachers are they're a rare breed nowadays. You don't find them easily. Everyone's always looking for good teachers. So for the people listening, what would be your advice to some of those young minds who might be at the same age context where you were back then, to think about getting into education as a teacher? How can they start their journey? How can they think about being a teacher today's time?
Yeah, I mean, that's a tough question.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know. I try and be careful with advice. Because it was such,
resonate.
I just feel that my path to education was so kind of, and we all have a unique path, but I went through certain things in my life. Like I said before, I felt a kind of anguish around the education I got. I wanted to offer a better experience for young people than I experienced. So there was a kind of burning desire to kind of correct some wrongs, and if I could play a small part in that, then so be it. So do you see what I mean? My journey there was kind of,
so that was your why, basically.
Right,
like to give back in a way. It's better for the people who are coming after you from the same background, or so to speak.
But I look at the system, especially back home in the UK, and sometimes I do kind of wonder why people would do it. So I don't like offering advice. I'm very wary about that, just because my own personal journey was we all have a personal journey, and what drives us towards something you in theory might do for the rest of your life. I'm always careful. But I do look back at the education system at home, and I do kind of think, well, are the people at the top making it a profession? Because you think of a dynamic job market, you've got to make, I do think, what are the attractions of doing it? And I don't mean necessarily financial. I mean, are we making the profession as rewarding as can be? Are we attracting people to the profession with things like, a dynamic curriculum?
Are we getting top talents coming into the...
Well, we're not, and we know that. We know that as you said before, we know there's a huge shortage. But are we, as our education policymakers, really... And I mean, with a fine-tooth comb, designing a system, an industry that's really going to attract people. Is the effort going in? And I would say it's not. I don't think the effort's going in. I don't think we've really made education attractive. I think almost like droids, we've expected people just to navigate to it. We're going to get, I think policymakers, it feels like we're going to get X percentage just become teachers, and we don't have to try too hard, we don't have to try too little, we just have to do what we've been doing, and that chunk of people will move across. And various things have happened. Like you said before, the job market has radically changed. there's so much more to do now in terms of the job market. You know, you can become a YouTuber, you can host a podcast, you can do so much now that wasn't available back in the end of the 90s or when I was going through, or the start of the 2000s when I was making some of these big decisions. So in terms of, I think we have to attract people to the industry, and we have to make it alive. We have to say, okay, this is the North Star, this is the frontier we're going towards. You know, this is some of our, you know, even, I know we'll get onto it probably later in the podcast, but even the stuff like, you know, AI, virtual, you know, virtual reality, we've not really brought them things to life. There's not a common purpose around what we're doing with it. It's just kind of there. And education, like education does, reacts by either banning it or having some, you know, endless conversation about it, while other industries, finance, you know, being one, will jump into it and say, okay, let's go. Let's
see how we can make things happen around what's happening new. And you know, I'll step back for a second. I think what you're talking about, you know, are policymakers, and I feel like that's not like one country challenge. I feel like that's quite a global challenge that, you know, maybe some countries are doing a little bit better than others, but if you sort of aggregate it, it seems largely like every country has got a very similar challenge, where in some ways the education sector gets somewhat, you know, ignored to some extent, and that light of day for its ideas and its purpose has to come forward across the globe, if you may.
I'll give you one example very quickly from the UAE. I live in Dubai. So I'll give you one example. In the UAE, they've began giving out golden visas to teachers. So that's amazing. It's a very deliberate and I think a very good attempt at attracting top talent. But that's rare. I'm not seeing other countries really think, oh, how do we get people into the profession? You know, how do we make this attractive? So the UAE, I think, has used a really cool.
That's amazing. I didn't know this.
It's used a really cool tool to attract talent into the country, because, you know, getting a golden visa is you know, it's quite an achievement.
People are spending a lot of money to get that kind of you know, golden visa and all, and if you can get that because you're in the right profession, I think that could be very powerful and could be of interest for a lot of people listening to our podcast as well. But I want to go back to one more time. I want to go back to this idea of like knowing that I want to be a teacher, because I think you started about like your journey was because of a certain context of your own life that you got, you know, into the field of education. But for people who may have decided that yes, I want to be a teacher, or maybe who've already started being a teacher, what would be your recommendation for them to sort of build that career to take the next step in their education teacher journey?
I mean, the obvious one is get comfortable with the AI very quickly. Get comfortable.
Course.
I mean, you can fight it all you want, but the AI is easing the pain points many of us felt pre this technology. It can supercharge and you know, and a good friend of mine describes it like this. A good friend of mine called Darren Cox, and he describes it like this: AI should walk behind you and by your side, but not in front. And I thought that was really powerful. So if you're a new teacher,
unlock that for me.
Yeah, well, because I think AI should support you, but you shouldn't just be churning out what AI gives you. You should become a powerful editor. You should, you know, it should be a co-pilot. It shouldn't be the pilot. So I think for young and emerging teachers, and you know, we see this in coding, we see this in computer engineering. You know, young engineers using tools like Cursor, you know, they are supercharging their skills. They're building rapid prototypes of products and products and technology. So as an educator, what would take us months in terms of designing an experience or a module, you can design 3 or 4 in the same time, and then begin to, you know, judge one against the other. You know, the strengths of this one are this, and strengths of this. So I would say, you know, use the technology. Don't become, you know, like I say, don't let it lead you, but use technology. You know, we have this tool now that can supercharge us. And the other advice is listen, smile. You know, I think schools can be very unfriendly places. I do. I always tried to avoid the staff room when I was a teacher. I never really went in the staff room. Didn't enjoy it. I didn't find the atmosphere very nice. And then other staff rooms I've been in, because we've partnered with schools over the years. I just don't like staff rooms. I just think there's an energy in there. So I think as a young teacher, avoid the staff room. That would be my advice. Still communicate with people, have conversations, collide into people around the schools, but definitely try not to pick up on that staff room energy. I always was very mindful. I wasn't going to get sucked into that.
Very interesting. Thank you for sharing that. And I think back to your AI point, I also feel, and this is something that I think you might have said somewhere. One of it is that, I mean, obviously AI has become an equalizer now, because you 30 years of teaching experience is not equal to 30 years of learning, right? That notion that with AI, the learning is happening so much more rapidly that even though you might have had years of teaching experience, it's not necessarily going to aid the world forward, or that's not a correct statement.
I mean, I think time is collapsing all over the place. It's a real bugbear of mine on social media when I see people say, I've been teaching 30 years, I've been teaching. It's like, dude, that doesn't, I think we're in a place where that, it matters in one lens. I think you do, through experience, you do pick up stuff. Maybe that's empathy, maybe that is resilience, maybe that's courage, but there's a whole different lens with tools and skills when I think time is collapsing. I'm seeing it real time. I'm seeing it. The young people I employ who run my studio, they can do the most incredible things that I could never do as a 22, 23-year-old. I was pretty useless as a 22, 23-year-old. I was just about getting by with life, but I watch these young people today, and the way they can use tools and the way they can use technology, it's mind-blowing. It's absolutely mind-blowing. And I think time is collapsing. And I think young people are in their bedrooms designing, solutions. And I think that's really exciting. But I've got to say, I think time is collapsing all over the place. And I think some people are putting their head in the sand, and you see it regularly on social media. I kind of kick back or push back to that is, I've been teaching 30 years, and it's like, and what? Okay. I think there was a time we did bow to that. There was a time you've been teaching 30, 40, any industry.
And that gave you authority, ultimate authority, but it doesn't give authority now. But certainly what you may have picked up has value to it, but it's not a wholesome thing anymore.
It's not a wholesome thing anymore. There's so many more pieces to the puzzle now. And I think if you're going around with your 30, 40 years of experience thinking that keeps you bulletproof, I don't see that anymore.
And really in any profession now, upskilling is a very real need. I mean, you can't be doing the same thing over and over and over. You have to be continuously upgrading yourself with what's happening around you in your profession.
I would say again to your audience, I think we should all put a pretty heavy microscope on a lot of the professional development that's out there. I think the market is heavily flooded.
With not effective tools.
Like gurus, tools, and you're like, oh, okay. So I think there's a lot out there, which is good. It's a good that the marketplace has a lot
of options.
A lot of options. So I think we have to be mindful consumers of professional development. I think we do have to pick what a professional development, because there's limited resources. And the main resource is time. It is. So therefore, if you are going to embark on a professional development experience, put it under the microscope. What am I getting out of this? Am I just going along because we've always gone to this event or this professional development experience, or is there a real outcome of me being there? Is that network? It could be networking, but it could be picking up frameworks and tools. It could be just listening to a particular speaker who inspires you, doing a workshop, with a particular person that you would get something out of. But I think the market has a lot in it right now, and I some of it is really inspiring, but some of it is not.
Makes sense.
So I think we have to become good consumers of professional.
I think what I'm learning is that I think it's great that a lot of variety is out there, but ultimately you have to take responsibility of filtering what's coming to you. And you know what they're saying, it's an attention economy thing. Like there's 10,000 different things coming at your way. Where you put your attention to, that's the real currency, and we got to be very mindful of that.
Yeah, exactly. And I think those experiences, some experiences can also flood you with too much. You know, as I'm getting older now,
you get burned out.
Also as I'm getting older, I'm getting to a point, I think, where I'm really appreciating simplicity. You know, if someone can give me simplicity,
I resonate, man.
I really like that. I think if you can simplify with the message that you are giving, the message that you are sending across, I think that's powerful. And I think for too long especially in education, we've packed so much into it. And actually, I really, again, as I'm getting older, I'm really beginning to admire the people who have the skill of subtracting. Like if you can subtract, if you can simplify, then that's the kind of people
that's very powerful. Focus on subtracting things and where you're putting your attention on.
I was listening to a great podcast about this, and it was a guy was comparing it to a map. So if you look at a traditional map, and a good leader should be able to erase the roads, should be to delete them, and you should be and what's left should be maybe one single road through the map. And if you can do that, going back to what is your core mission? What are you trying?
What's your North Star around that?
What are you actually trying to do here? You know, we advise a lot of schools, and often they will have, 15 big targets, and you're just like, you have good luck, but it was ultimately like, okay, boil that down. What are you trying to do? Are you a sustainable school? Are you a project-based learning school? Are you an exam-based school? Something we're shying away from now. But if you are one, own it.
Own it, yes.
Say what you are.
I think clarity is one of the most important thing. Yeah, absolutely. Let's switch gears a little bit. I mean, this is something I'm very excited about. Is what you did with you led the first traveling high school. Think Global School. So walk us through that journey, how it came about, and just introduce that whole concept to the audience.
Yeah, I worked with Think Global School for 12 years. It was a great journey. And I've got to say, there was some really, really great heads before me. Two guys called Alan Cooper and Jamie Steckart. They led the school before me. And when Jamie moved on, I took over with a leadership team. And it was a crazy ride. It was 12 years that I think, looking back, it's almost like someone else lived it. I am, just to think that I spent 4 months in the Sacred Valley in Peru and Cusco, 4 months in New Zealand, we were in China. We've literally been all over. And, you get some real lessons. And I've got to say, I'm assuming majority of your audience are probably from India. So,
yes.
We have been to India. I've been in Hyderabad with TGS. I've been Mumbai multiple times.
Nice.
With Think Global School, and India's a wonderful place. And when you're leading a school that is around experiential learning, it doesn't get much better than India. And I'm not just saying that because I'm on your podcast with your audience. It truly, we did some of our best work in India, just because there is so much to learn and study here.
But help us walk through, how did it work? What does a traveling school mean? I don't think people would really understand that just by listening to it.
At its core level, you pick everything up and you go.
Okay.
So you are living. The school is literally living out of a suitcase. There's no building. There's no building now.
There's no calendar, or there may be a calendar.
No, there's calendar. There's calendar. No, we have electronic tools. So there's a system. There's a framework.
Okay.
There's a curriculum. There's a calendar. But you kind of let go of physical things.
No boundaries.
Yeah. So when we go into a country, we partner with obviously it's a boarding school, so the students need to live somewhere. So you partner with somewhere they can live. You then rent office space or a co-work space where you then would do the lessons, and then you start making connections with local people, local companies. And the way we did it is there was 3 modules, which took up about 60-70% of the curriculum.
Okay.
So if you're doing a module on sustainability or robotics or urban planning and urban design, the students would pick one of 3, and they would say, okay, that's my module that I'm doing in India or in Japan.
Oh.
And for the 7 weeks, that would be their focus. Now, they were doing other things, like there was a wellness curriculum, there was a maths lab, a language lab that they would do, but about 60% was what we would call the module. And the module was the kind of the heartbeat of the school.
That's the core that everyone has to do.
Yeah, that was the core. Yeah, that was the core. And then as you go through, it ran from grade 10 to 12. You could enroll in grade 10 or grade 11, but you could not enroll in grade 12. So you either embarked on a 3-year program or a 2-year program.
Okay.
And then there was around 60 core competencies that the students would engage in. And if you were doing a 7-week module, maybe there's 5 of those 60 competencies that are baked in to that experience. And the students are tackling those 5 or 6 real world competencies.
Okay.
And then saying, okay, am I going for mastery at this competency, or am I going for just to be a novice? And that was a huge pivot that we made with the school. We embraced the novice mentality. The idea, when I've done podcasts in the past, or I've done talks, like what are some of the most substantial things we did was we got rid of letters and numbers.
Oh. Because
they're just redundant. Like in your adult life, have you ever been given a letter or a number to grade your performance? No, you haven't. Neither have I. So we didn't do that to the students. So what happened was, when you've got that base level, what we would kind of brand students as an E or a 2 if you're on an IB program. When you don't have that, you're just a novice. You're like, all right, cool.
Yeah.
As a 46-year-old man, I'm a novice at so much stuff.
Yeah.
Like I'm learning, and all the time, I hope I'm embarking on new stuff that I am a novice in. And that's fine, that's powerful. But I'm not going around going, I'm an E in this. It's just redundant language that we don't use outside that place called school. So that was hugely powerful for us. So you had students who would typically be in schools and branded lower grades or lower numbers, who then, self-fulfilling prophecy, then spiral down. That didn't happen. I rarely, if ever, saw that happen. Students embraced being a novice, and then they would work up towards specialism and then mastery. So actually, you didn't, just by the simple shift of language. The
perspective shifts.
The perspective and the design shift. You're not designing for people who are E's anymore. You're a novice, and that's cool. And we would model that.
There's nothing negative about that self-image of being a novice. Novice is just a work in progress.
You're just a work in progress. Yeah. So that was a huge. So the school moved around the world, 7-week blocks, 4 countries every year, and it was based around future-facing competencies and design. And the module was kind of the heartbeat of it. And and it was, we had a great partnership with the Western Association of Schools and Colleges, WASC, which is an American accreditation. So it was a fully accredited program.
That's what I was curious. Like, how did the students do in terms of university admissions, and did that align with their admission processes, and did you guys help with that?
They were fine. They went to university, and usually, not all, but many said first year uni was fairly easy, because you've got to remember, these students are managing projects. They're not sat in a class waiting for an exam. It's all about the journey, and you're designing for the journey. So actually, when students then have to go to university and manage work, which I was terrible at, I've got to admit, when I went to university and I wasn't getting spoon-fed the worksheets and the workbooks, I struggled. I really struggled. It was only later in my second year that I got comfortable. Whereas our students will go into university and they're used to managing. We also have them managing their own finance as well. So they get budgets, and they manage their food and their stipend and their resources. So they're very much trained how to live. We don't spoon feed.
If nothing, I feel like that's like a major life skill, because think of it, every time you travel, you're learning, you're getting exposed to so many new things, and when that traveling is part of your curriculum, I think the learning must have been very powerful.
It was very powerful. And you're breaking stereotypes, you're breaking labels. Countries we go to, students, because our students were from all over the world. And whether it be India, whether it be Dubai, whether it be Australia, they would have certain preconceptions of the culture, the food, the language, and you were also breaking barriers in that way as well. Many left countries going, after 7 weeks, I did not think that. I did not think I would learn that. I thought that on entry, on exit, completely shifted, and that was magical.
How does a program like this get absorbed by a parent listening for it for the first time? Like, how does a parent get excited about a program like this? Like, do they I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of like doubts and fears that come in the way when parents first hear about this, even though they're intrigued by it. But, you know, obviously there's challenges that they...
Yeah, but I've got to say, I'm glad you asked that question. I think we are getting to a point when I was at Think Global School, I've obviously left now.
Yeah.
But you had the traditional system and then you had this quirky alternative system. And very much, if you stayed in the traditional system, you were safe. The system was secure, you knew what you're going to get. And if you went to Think Global School, or a school like Think Global School, it was a risk. You know, when we emerged, I think Green School really caught fire around the same time. So it was a lot of our students looked at Green School or Think Global School. Learn Life in Barcelona also got a lot of momentum around that time or just after. So these kind of new schools began to emerge, and they were a risk. They were doing different curriculum, they had different intentions. But I think now we're getting to a point where I would challenge parents to say, is it more of a risk to do a program like ours, or
stay in the conventional school,
or sit your child in a box for 7 hours a day being spoken at? I mean, I think now you're getting to a point where one might overlap the other.
Yeah.
And, you know, back in 2012, we did get frontier parents who were ahead of the game who said, okay, I'm willing to take a risk. I'm willing to take a chance because I know the world is changing and I want my young person prepared for that. Now, not many people were there.
Yeah,
and I get that, I totally get that. But I think way more people are there now.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, I'm not a parent, but if I was a parent, or if I'm advising my brother, which he probably doesn't like, on my niece, I would say, you know, the risk factors, I think, is getting high just to sit your child in a box for 7 hours a day.
It's more limiting now, it seems.
It's more limiting. And I think there's real frustration there. I think young people, they want to engage, they want to design, they want to build, they want to prototype. Yeah. They don't want just being spoon-fed information that they can pull off ChatGPT or Claude in nanoseconds. It's just silly. It's getting a bit silly at this point.
Was this all part of like the Changemaker curriculum, or was it something different?
The way we designed Changemaker was Changemaker could adapt very quickly because it was a portfolio process. Like I look back now, if AI had come in when I was still there, I know we could have pivoted super fast because the portfolio allows you to do that.
Okay.
You know, I would never be fighting. I would never need to fight students over using AI. They could easily tag it within the portfolio and say, "Yep, I used AI here. This is how I used it. This was my prompt. This is how the prompt evolved." You know, so this was my reflection. The portfolio allows that. I wouldn't. You know, I think the system was designed to pivot. Ultimately,
walk us through this portfolio concept of learning.
So you have a design cycle. You know, there's many out there. You know, Stanford D School, for example, has a great one. We designed our own, and from the start of a project to the middle to the end, you are purposely walking through stages. Okay. Like, this is where I'm going to look around and find some empathy. This is where I'm going to design and prototype. This is where I'm going to share. This is where I'm going to reflect. Yeah. And imagine each of those stages as a chapter in the portfolio. Yeah. So the student then goes through the journey, and through each chapter, they are tackling the competencies that we mentioned earlier in the podcast. So if my competency is how do I navigate conflict within the portfolio, I expect to see that young person tackle how do I navigate conflict. And are they doing that as a novice, or are they doing that as a master? You know.
So portfolio is a general theme that you pick out, and around that theme you have to go through all the steps within the...
We had a process. We still like, and I think this is what really frustrates me. People who either don't understand project-based learning or are trying it without really understanding it feel like it's kind of just vibes, and it's not. There is a framework. We were successful because we built a framework that you know, powered the PBL, and the PBL was powered by the design cycle and the portfolio and competencies which were future facing. And I always talk about the triangle. That's the triangle. Okay. It's future facing competencies, it's design cycle, it's portfolio. Okay. Because you can't be anti-exams and not fill the vacuum. You've got to fill the void with something. And we filled it, and it was a heavy lift. We worked very hard at it. My team worked really hard at curating a powerful portfolio. But by the end, by the time I left, it was a super tool. We'd done a really good job with it.
And it's very interesting what you said, that creating a vacuum by not having exams, and you have to fill it with something. Because I'm thinking, as a parent wants to at least know, how does a parent know what my child has learned?
Yeah.
Right. So I mean, in some ways, what is the biggest, easiest, lowest hanging fruit takeaway of a marks and exam results is that the parent is able to see on a sheet, whether that's the right thing or wrong, that's secondary, but it's at least one way of evaluation of saying, okay, this is where my child stands, right? But in your approach, how does a parent evaluate what their child's knowledge level is or skill level is? How do they evaluate that?
Well, you look at it through the portfolio.
Okay.
The parent should be engaged with the portfolio, and you can see the learning journey. Yeah. It's there. And I even, if I could look back at A levels, I taught 2 years, a 2-year course, a 2-year program to young people. And what do they get out? They sit 2 or 3 exams. They've 4 or 5 sides. Hand that into the exam board. You get a number back.
Yeah.
That
was it.
That was it. And these people are walking away with 80, 100-page portfolios.
Yeah.
Rigorous reflection. Rigorous design and prototyping, and the parent can see it in action. And if you want to give them a test, you can do. I don't know why you would, but you can still. We're not saying
they're still going to do better because they've already gone through the rigor of
you
still
do some traditional assessments within the portfolio experience. You don't have to throw everything out with the bathwater. You can still embed, and that's the other frustrating thing about project-based learning and people's perception of it. We would still do fairly traditional teaching on the front end. So weeks 1 and 2, you would still be probably explaining the concepts, explaining the big picture, and then you slowly move into more dynamic design, prototype, student agency, student-led. So it's not just, I think people see project-based learning and they just think it's all student agency. We live in this world where it's all or nothing. We've lost the ability of nuance. And actually there's different pedagogy woven in all the way through. It's not just one thing. Project-based learning by itself doesn't really mean much.
Well, actually, what happens is there's certain buzzword that just sort of starts to get popular, and then everyone just starts to piggyback and build their own context to it. Like, it's always, a lot of popular belief is like, oh, we want to reimagine our school system. We want to reimagine things. Yeah. And I've heard you say, we don't need to reimagine, we need to redesign. So help us, walk us through that thought process.
It's the most annoying word in education. It's like the reimagining. I still see it now if a conference or a program
it is full of it.
Just reimagine, like, what you reimagine? Like, what, okay, we've been reimagining for years now. What's the outcome?
Yeah.
Again, a few schools are doing it. They've done a great job, but the bulk and the majority haven't. They've done nothing with the reimagination, or whatever the reimagination has produced. Nothing's been done with it. So I'm a big believer in we've got to take a risk. You've got to launch some form of sandbox, some form of education. Educational experience that isn't connected to what you've done in the past. You've got to embark on something new, because otherwise the reimagination is pointless. What are you doing with the reimagination?
So help us, just to sort of make this real more clear. Can you differentiate reimagination from redesigning for me?
So design, or not even redesign, design or redesign. If you want to take something existing and significantly reshape it, remold it, redesign, or you're going to design something completely new. Scratch, like is what we did. We redesigned, we knocked the whole curriculum down, for our previous curriculum, and we built something completely new. We didn't redesign the old one. There was nothing. I don't think there was anything legacy that carried forward.
It's like building a new house or renovation.
Yeah, exactly. You're building a new one, you're going to renovate.
Yeah.
So, and there's nothing wrong with renovation. Again, just be clear what you're doing. Or are you going to sit and chat to your wife and husband about it and reimagine it, but then not do it? And that's what we've been doing for the last few years.
So the challenge with reimagination is it lacks follow through. Is that a right way to look at it?
That's my particular criticism of it.
Okay, interesting.
I don't know if that's a wider held truth by your audience, but my belief is my perspective is we've reimagined forever, and I do not see much of what we've done with it.
Well, why is that? That a lot of innovation in education don't seem to succeed. What according to you is a stopper?
Well, there's two things. We don't do it at all. So I've been so many reimagination conferences and then nothing has been reimagined. So we just don't, if the reimagination has given us a new perspective, we've then just parked the new perspective and just left it.
Yeah.
So that's one. Then I think where we have been brave enough in the past to redesign and or build or design something, I think the criticism is we want immediate results. And you're not going to get immediate results. You're not. Our first 2 years with the Changemaker program were really hard. You know, the kids were enjoying it, the modules were good, but it wasn't where we wanted it to be.
Okay.
It was tough. And I don't know if school leaders are ready to really go through that phase. They wanted to kind of jump out of the frying pan, miss the fire and jump into another frying pan, yeah. And you're just not going to do that. You have to kind of go through the fire.
Yeah.
And that's the problem I see. I see a lot of schools who I think have great intentions. I think they want to do something new. They want they want to give the curriculum a new phase. But I just feel that when they hit the first 3 barriers, the retreat happens very quickly.
The firefighting comes up and then you feel like, okay, we got to go back to what was working.
Yeah, just go back.
Yeah. The noise was less. We were all trying to put fires and whatever it takes to go back, if it means that go back to the old way, just go back to the old way.
Yeah, go with the old way. It's quiet and peaceful over there. Life's easy.
Comfort zone,
yeah. So, but like we said at the start of the conversation, I do not think that comfort zone is going to radically change the profession. The profession needs an overhaul. We know that, to attract new people, to attract new teachers. Yeah. We know the profession as it exists is not going to do that.
Yeah.
So therefore, there are huge rewards. I firmly believe this. I think if you can go through the fire, there are incredible rewards once you're through it.
Yeah.
I think you become more attractive as an institution in regards to hiring. I think the kids learn more, learn in a way more fun way. I couldn't go back to after Think Global. I couldn't go back to traditional teaching.
Yeah.
No way.
You've gone past the fire. You would not gonna go back to. It'll be like a cave age.
Yeah, I remember doing it. The kids asked me for a lecture on a concept or something, and I remember speaking. And I got about 5 or 6 minutes in. I said, "Listen, I'm boring myself here. Like what?" I said, "Let's just try and do it." Yeah, and because I really went back into kind of teacher mode. Anyway, we did something more like a Socratic, and it was a lot more fun. But I just remember stepping back into my old ways, and it was like, "Oh, okay, no, this is." And again, I'm sure there's a place for it. I'm sure. Again, I think we need nuance. I'm not saying just abandon everything in the old ways. There is some, there's some great teachers who do the old ways really well, but I think we have to go back to your question, I think if we're going to endlessly reimagine, if that's the sticker we're putting on the box, this is a reimagination school, or this is a school that embraces reimagination, or this is a reimagination conference, then I think we have an onus to deliver something from that.
I mean, from what I'm hearing, I think it's more about taking the ancient wisdom, put a new context to it, and make it your own today. I'm not saying in your own environment, and everyone has to make it their own in their own environment. It's very hard to put a general tag to it because every geography, every school, every teacher, every head teacher, all of it is going to be context to your local needs and where you are in your journey, because again, everyone is in a certain place in their journey in terms of how they've optimized, how they've grown, how they've evolved. All of that will sort of go hand in hand. So I think important things, the word nuance, I think I can resonate with that as well. And I think the listeners would love to sort of absorb that while 10,000 different things are coming your way, you want to make sure that you filter out what is applicable to your local context and then apply it and then monitor it and then sort of keep looking it as a work in progress. I think that would be a good way to look at it.
And celebrate the wins as well.
Absolutely.
Celebrate
Most
the
important,
wins.
because that's what keeps your team going. Because, as school leaders or as even business leaders, we sometimes tend to really be always like, okay, what's next? Sometimes it's important to take the pause, like, okay, we did this well.
Yeah, I was so guilty.
On to the next
I was
one.
so guilty of that.
Same here.
Guilty of that.
Absolutely. But let's talk about, you've launched Elam Studio. So, why now? What's your idea around it for, I know you're it's a design lab for future schools. So unlock that for our audience. Like, what do you mean by future schools, and what are you trying to do with this?
Yeah, I mean, it's going beyond the reimagination. So we're actually then saying, okay, let's design. So we're partnered with schools across the Middle East and the Far East, Hong Kong, and then our partners in Dubai. And what we're trying to do is, for example, with one partner, we're launching an AI sandbox. So we're taking one group, one grade, and then over a couple of hours a week saying, okay, how can we use AI and really be intentional about it and supercharge? And what does that sandbox look like? What's the design? What's the flow? What are the, we're not just turning up and saying AI, it's very intentional in terms of how we're using it, what the outcomes are, and the flow of the program. And then in Hong Kong, we're working with the Dalton School there. We've already designed their middle school, and now we're moving on to help them design their high school. So these are longer, intentional projects, and that's the kind of point of Elham. We were, for a time in my career, I'd seen and delivered short professional development. You go to a school for a week,
of course.
and it was cool. We did some good work, but I think ultimately where we're finding impact is the longer, more intentional projects, longer, more intentional designs. And that's what we're doing with Elham. We are saying, okay, if you are a partner that really wants to change, that really wants to evolve, we will stand beside you and help you with that design. And like we said before, help you when the chips are down, and help you when you hit the barriers, help you navigate that. So that's the point of Elham.
So it's also about helping them discover what their challenges are and then build upon them. So it's self-discovery is part of the process, is it?
Yeah, I mean, we would whatever the solution is you want to create, we obviously would benchmark that internationally. We would look at best practice. We would then go back, work with our partner and say, okay, this is what's going on in the world. Does any of this resonate? If it doesn't, okay, then we'll design from zero, but then we'll start to build. And then it's hearing the voices in the room, it's hearing what the intentions are, creating empathy, as you say. So it's, and I think trying to be realistic as well. Like we've got to acknowledge that we did something pretty radical in 2015, which was we knocked down the whole curriculum. We understand people aren't going to do that.
Yeah. So it takes a lot of courage to do that.
Yeah, it takes courage, it takes time, and you've got to be really intentional about it. That's what we want it to do. Some schools don't want to do that. So if schools are going in and saying, okay, there's 20% of the curriculum we'd like to put into a sandbox and design, then we will do that with the partner, and that's what we've been doing at the moment in Dubai.
What would you advise to schools if they're sort of introspecting in terms of their curriculums and looking for, okay, do we need a change here? Do we not need a change? Sometimes it can be overwhelming. How can they think about this process on their own? Not everyone's going to have access to resources like yours, but how can a school in their local environment think about this and ideate with their teams internally to talk about, like, how can we bring this change about? Is there an advice or specific process that they should look at to go through this journey?
Yeah, I mean, the journey's not for everyone, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But I think if you're a leader and you are feeling like you're losing the kids, you're feeling like the rote learning isn't working, you're feeling like there's an urge from the staff to try something new. It's about signal spotting. Yeah. It's about good leaders, see the snakes in the grass, they read the tea leaves. You should be, if the signals are beginning to emerge, you should be looking to meet that challenge. And that doesn't always have to come around AI, it can come around, for us, it was our our why was around, we weren't making the use of place. We were traveling school, but the old curriculum was too kind of, traditional curriculum heavy. It had exams at the end of it. So we were in places like Japan and India, and we weren't making use of place, because once them exams come around, you're prepping for the exams. You can't really, you don't even know where you are at that point. So you're just in a hotel room. So we had to, our why was very intentional. We wanted to make use of place. So again, for a school that wants to immerse more into the local community, a school that wants to maybe do more futures thinking, a school that wants to connect to other generations, if all these things, if these things are not happening, but that you've got a burning desire to do them, and your framework won't let you, then you need to redesign the framework. You need to redesign the curriculum. So I don't think this is rocket science. I think if your core mission and values, you're not realizing it,
I think it'll go back to like why you're doing it, and that'll sort of fuel your commitment to it, because it's the commitment will lead to the courage which is needed to be able to do this right.
Good
it's
leaders,
not for everyone.
Good leaders should be able to spot where the tensions are. And like I said, if the young people, if you know the young people can offer so much more, and your curriculum is holding them back, then I think you've got an obligation to then look at the curriculum.
And you've extended that to the Hakuba Forum, right?
Yeah.
So just walk us through that, because I know we were talking about it earlier, where you mentioned that it's not really just for educators, but anyone who's sort of looking to do that self-discovery. So I mean, I'd love for you to share that.
We've hosted the Hakuba Forum now for 2 years.
Okay.
The third year is coming up in October.
Oh, nice.
So we meet in Japan. We have around 40 educators from around the world.
Wow.
Or people, as you say, people who are interested or passionate about learning.
Yep.
And we bring them together. The forum has core elements. It has an advisory program where every morning you sit with your 5 or 6 people and you discuss a theme or a concept, and that is the most exciting part of the forum. People really love the advisory. They really love sitting in a small group and really getting their teeth into some issues, going deep. And then we do something called frontier talks. So everyone talks for around 3 minutes, no slides, no props. They just explain a frontier or an edge that they are pushing.
So everyone gets to pick their own topic?
Everyone gets to pick their own topic,
And then just speak about that?
Then we do maybe 4 or 5 every day, or where there's a break, or where there's an hour, and people, we don't do them all at once. That would be boring. So but we'll stop and pause. 3 or 4 of them would happen. And then we would do a lot of rapid design and prototyping within the forum. And the reason we do that is we want people to find their tribe. So if someone has, like we were talking about before, someone wants to redesign their curriculum, or someone wants to launch a prototype or a sandbox, then at the Hakuba you can find some cheerleaders, you can find people who would support you in doing that. So it's very much, it's about finding your tribe, it's about networking and coming together, but we have some very intentional pieces that we do as DNA of the forum. And then on day 4 we do something called the festival, the Hakuba Festival, where we invite local educators from Nagano and maybe Tokyo region come in, join us for 1 day.
Wow.
And I would say that's a little more conventional, where we have we have keynotes and we have panels, whereas the forum is very much immersive and very flat, then we have a festival that's a little more recognizable in terms of traditional conferencing. So that's the Hakuba Forum,
Wow, what kind of transformation have you seen for people who have done your forum and sort of...
Oh, we've had people go back to their traditional schools and go, I can't do this anymore. And completely go on to a different tangent. Yeah. We've had people go on really significant journeys post the forum, like huge.
And these are mostly school owners or school promoters who have attended this?
No. It's school leaders, it's architects.
Oh.
We've got people from the movie industry coming this year.
Really?
This is anyone passionate about learning. If you're passionate about learning, and sure, you might have one of your tentacles in educational school, that's fine. But really it's about learning. And yes, we do see schools as probably the main beneficiary of that, because people then will put their
learning
energy.
is along with it.
Learning's largely rooted in schools and education. So sure, the energy is 70% of the energy is shifting there. But we have people who are teaching courses in university, programs outside of education, extracurricular, they've also been motivated as well. So it's about learning, and I'm happy we've actually moved it in that direction. I didn't want it to be just a group of people from education. Nice. I think there's enough of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
No,
but that's quite fascinating to hear about that. So let's switch gears a little bit, right? I think we're all navigating the rise of AI in education, and you've consistently said that we have to be seeing AI that it's accelerating learning and not replacing it. So just help us walk through your ideology around AI and how our education community needs to be embracing it, and like you said earlier, looking it as our co-pilot rather than us blindly following it, so to speak.
Well, I think we have to be honest. It's going to replace some things. I don't think it's just going to be a co-pilot of everything.
Yeah.
I think some things, and I think that'll be good leadership. I think good leaders will identify where AI can replace human hours and then free up them hours for other things. So I think AI can replace in some areas. There's huge parts of curriculum development. AI can replace endless hours of research and designing. I'm not saying it replaces it entirely. What I'm saying is though, 60% of curriculum design could probably be done now with AI, and then the human comes in and begins to adjust, shape and mold. So I think that's exciting. I think, I'm seeing endless hours that we did as curriculum designers be shortened. And that opens up then curriculum reimagination or redesign up to way more schools and people if you've got the willpower to do it. So I think we have to be honest. I think there are things that AI will probably replace, but there's also, as you said, there's many things where education can use AI as a co-pilot, and that's exciting as well. So I think these are choices. Again, I think we're guilty in education of just sitting there and absorbing. We've got to be dynamic. We've got to be proactive and have intentionality about our usage of AI. Yeah. Like I said before, like my friend said, it walks behind, it walks to the side, but where and how? These are leadership and these are team decisions that we're going to have to make. I don't think you can just be passive.
So what do education leaders need to be doing now to lead this transition or lead this change, according to you?
Well, I think having a vision. Like if you are going to have artificial intelligence in your school, if your teachers are going to be using it, which most are, let's be real, or many are, then having a framework around it. This is how we want to use AI. This is how we want the students to use AI. Yeah. These are some of the outcomes we would hope. Getting regular feedback, not hiding and just hoping people are using it, but kind of carefully. Saying, okay, let's have some case studies. Where are the team using AI and you've had a really big win? Share it with the team. Yeah. So I think that's, getting it out there, and we're still so early. We're still so early in this process. Yeah. I think we need a lot more case studies. We need a lot more discussions around what's working and what's not working in education.
What I've learned, very recently as well, is that we all need to be looking at, and not just education in particular, but across the board, we all need to look at AI as a mindset. Yeah. It has to be more like, okay, we have, in everyday work that we do, whatever work we are doing, there are certain problems that come our way. There are certain challenges that come our way. So we all need to move to that being an AI generalist mindset where, okay, if I have this problem, what can I do? Can AI help me? Or is there an AI way of doing it? Is that AI first mindset that mindset could eventually save or optimize those human hours, which could be then productively used more in areas which only human intervention or human mind is required. So having that AI generalist mindset is a big takeaway for me in this whole, buzzing around AI that we are hearing. But you've obviously captured a lot of your thoughts in your book that is about to come out.
Just before that, can I just say something very quickly?
Yes, please.
The Dubai Future Foundation actually just launched something pretty cool. It's very simple, but it's quite a cool step forward. Yeah. And if you find if you go on their website, they've actually designed, I think it's 5 or 6 logos. Okay. Where within industry you can tag a design or a prototype with one of the logos, and it's either human-led, machine-led, co-pilot.
Wow.
So actually you can begin, and that's how we would have done it in the portfolio. So that's why I kind of like the approach. So what the Dubai Future Foundation has done, and it's open source, you can just download these kind of tokens, and then within your work, you can begin just tagging and saying, okay, this was machine-led.
Oh, wow.
This was human-led. This was solely machine.
Wow.
This was solely human. Or this was a 50-50.
Co-pilot.
And this, so there's 5. I think it's 5,
Very interesting.
Yeah. So that again, but I think we shouldn't shy away from simple solutions. Simple solutions are powerful.
Absolutely.
And I like that one from DFF. That was, and it spoke to me just because that is how we did things in the process portfolio.
Oh, thanks for sharing that. Yeah. But I'm excited to hear about, you put together your book that's coming out, Firefly Effect.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, so tell us about it. Give us a little scoop on what led you to that, and who's it for, and what can we expect from it?
So the origin story of the Firefly Effect was we were in Costa Rica, and we were up a mountain. There wasn't much to do, and we were there for about 4 months. And I remember sat on the back porch. And you would see these fireflies, and these fireflies would kind of be, and it was that was our entertainment many of the nights, and it was just one of the things from being nomadic for so long that stuck with me. And these short bursts of energy. There's this orchestra going on, but there's no clear leader. It's out of sync, but it's all in sync.
Yeah.
And I just found it really magical. It stayed with me for many years. And so when I began writing the Firefly Effect, that image just dominated, and it kept nagging at me. It was kind of an itch. So therefore I kind of gave into that itch, and I said, okay, let's design it through the Firefly Effect. So then I got into the research, and it all kind of aligned. This idea that we're living in an age, in my opinion, where these short bursts of energy are really powerful. We design for these sprints, we then pause, because we have the technology where we can do this at a much faster rate. Therefore we can pause, we can analyze, we can reflect, and then we can go again. So it kind of, this idea of the design mirrors the Firefly. So the Firefly, witnessing the fireflies in Costa Rica became the inspiration behind the book. But it's really a book. You asked the question, who's it for? As we were talking about before we went live, I wanted the book to be for anybody. I wanted the book. I really had my dad in mind. Like, my dad is in the airport. He's heard probably me and my brother going about AI, and he can just pick it up and go through it. So, as I said to you before, I don't really care. I don't get too technical. There's other books that probably do that. Well, definitely do that way better than the Firefly Effect. The Firefly Effect is grappling with what makes us human, and how do we honor that, but still live in reality and saying we have these tools, we have this technology.
Embrace the new technology.
Yeah, that can supercharge us. So the idea is it's filled with tools and stories about my travels in the world, and some of these travels and this experience. There's one in New Zealand that's very powerful with the Father of the Forest, which is this magnificent 2,000-year-old tree. Yeah. And I obviously went there thinking, it's a tree. How amazing can it be? And it was like, wow, this thing. I'm not necessarily the most spiritual person, but being in front of that,
felt the vibe.
You felt that, yeah. So it's stuff like technology. Not yet can recreate that, so that's really powerful for me. Another story, without giving too much away, is one in Nero's palace in Rome, and just being there, walking the corridors that Nero walked. That was pretty freaking cool. Nice. So it was this kind of this feeling you get from some of these experiences that technology can't necessarily replicate, and so I try to bring the book alive through these stories, and then talk about these bursts of design, and then this period of rest, recovery, and reflection.
That's very cool, man. All the best to you for your book. I think it should be cool. And with all your travels around the world, and I think this might be very interesting for our audience to hear, is that do you see the potential in India not just as a market, but also as the design lab for the future of education? What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I've spent a lot of time in India. I love the country. I think if you're looking at a country that has material in abundance for a new frontier of education, it's India. If you look at culture, religion, language, festivals, there's such a rich variety, there's such a rich canvas that one could pick from and one could design from. So I think India has all the tools there. The nagging question would be, will policymakers be brave enough to allow curriculums to be built and designed that then can allow this kind of local to national flourishing? Because again, there's only so much you can do, as I think we're realizing, within four walls. And will India be guilty of falling back into what it's done very well for a long period of time, which is traditional conventional teaching? And can it pull itself away from that and be more experiential?
Wow. So what would it take, according to you, for a school in India to become that truly future ready?
Embrace the triangle I mentioned at the start of the podcast. It's always back to that. It's can you engage with future facing competencies? Can you allow your students to design through a design cycle? And if you are gonna, somewhat remove the 100% all or nothing examinations, replace it with something meaningful. For us, it was the portfolio. It could be something else for another school, but that was us. So I think if you're engaging with that triangle and you're redesigning from that point, you've got a fighting chance. If you don't have these three things, I've seen schools struggle.
Interesting. And, how do we explain to parents to trust system like that? Or, explaining them the triangle or the portfolio could be quite challenging, do you think?
Yeah, but like I said before, I think then explaining the risks of not, which are way heavier than what they were a decade ago. I think if you look at the world post-pandemic, the boom of homeschooling, the boom of virtual learning, the onset of AI, the world's hugely changed, even just the last 5 years. And I think there's a burning desire to do more than sit in a classroom now. And I think as well, selling a new vision to parents, don't confuse it. Don't try and blind them with science. Just the statistics speak pretty damningly about what we're doing. What is it? 24% of teachers imminently want to leave the profession. Over 50% are playing with the idea of leaving,
whether they want to leave or not.
So the system might come down to us not. It might come down to it doesn't matter what we think about this situation. It might just collapse in on us because there's just not enough people to hold it up. And therefore we see it begin just to crumble
down.
And those that jumped onto different models, micro schools or schools that are on the frontier, that are far more engaging, that can hire the number of staff enough to survive, that can keep the students coming in happy, energized, then those schools are going to be fine. And I think then traditional schools, I'm not saying that they're going to go out of business or they're not going to collapse, but there does seem to be a problem. And I think human power, having enough people in place, that strikes me as the biggest, most worrying problem right now.
Interesting. Unlock that for me. Human power. Say that again, please.
Just the human power, the human numbers, the human energy to drive the system forward. We know we're radically short of people to do this. We've taken that for granted for a long time.
True.
And I think was it UNESCO or OECD said we need something like 20 million teachers. It was a humongous number.
The number is way out there.
It's way out there. So if that's true or not, who knows? But let's say it's even half true. That's still a worrying scenario.
I mean, you talk to so many educators, people who are running schools. I mean, teacher struggle is a real thing that everyone's facing, and it's a very universal and unifying pain, if you may.
But I posted something on my LinkedIn page a few weeks back, and it was the perception of education. And I think in the 1950s, start of the 60s, it was really high. If a parent would tell their child to be a teacher, it was really high. It was like that was a profession you wanted.
Very well respected at the time.
You wanted your child to do that profession. It was like, yep. And the decline is crazy. I think it might be, don't quote me on this, but I think it might be under 20% now.
Jesus.
So like, it's just, so this, again, there's signals now popping off everywhere that we have to do something with a bit more courage, I think.
Absolutely. And I think what you said in the start, that we want to bring attraction, we want to make this profession attractive in any way we can, because whether it is better pay, better resource, better respect, all of those things have to come together to really make it exciting, because really the future of the world is in the hands of our teachers who are going to shape those future leaders, future innovators, all of those things happen. But let's close with a vision, right? If you could design the ideal school for 2040, if you may, what would it look like? What would it feel like according to you?
I think it would exist. It would have an anchor. I think it's important to have an anchor. That's what I did learn throughout my year with Think Global School. So there's a place you can kind of go back to that's kind of home. But I think it's deeply immersed in the environment. And I mean environment very broadly.
Okay.
So if that's in nature, if that's in a city, so and I think it's built with courage. It's built by the people leading it, taking some risks. There's 3 things that I said during my TED talk that I think I stand by. We've got to have, as the adults in the room, we've got to have the ability to unlearn. Like how we've learned is really holding us back. We've got to have the ability to unlearn, let go of some stuff. So I think in terms of the architecture of a new school, those running it need to be brave enough to unlearn some of the truths that have probably held them back in the previous part of their career. The second part is any curriculum or any school of the future, I think, has to trust the young people. They're going to make mistakes, of course, but it's okay. I can tell you from designing and building a program riddled with mistakes, the kids are fine. The kids succeed. It's okay. Mistakes are made.
Mistakes are okay.
Just sitting them quietly in a room.
And that's important for the parents to understand that as well.
Yeah, it is. And then the third lesson is to act now. The third lesson is and it goes back to the endless reimagining. We've got to design now. Like, we've got to make this whole industry far more engaging and aspiring to be a part of, a movement to be a part of, than it is at the moment. So I think any new school design would be one that takes other schools with it, that inspires other schools. So I think any school of the future is deeply immersed in the environment. It's constantly unlearning. It's trusting the young people who are part of it. And it acts quickly and rapidly, just like I say in the book. It acts in these short bursts, and then it takes a pause, it reflects this, and it goes again.
Wonderful. And I think what I'm really learning is that we got to put a pause onto that continuous loop of just thinking, ideating, and say, okay, why don't we break it down into smaller parts, test it, make those mistakes, iterate it, go back at it, find more mistakes. So, make 5 mistakes and be ready to have the right model out, rather than taking a large model that you're just sort of in your imagination and with no action. So I think that's powerful, and thank you so much, Russell. I think it's been a lovely conversation. I've really enjoyed, and I'm truly walking away inspired from this conversation, and I'm sure our audience feel the same way. Wish you all the best with your book, and obviously what you're doing with Elam Labs, Elam Studio, sorry. And thank you for being here.
My pleasure.
All right.
Thank you for having me.
Great. Russell's journey reminds us that transformation doesn't begin with technology; it begins with intent. The schools don't need louder slogans; they need braver designs. And that sometimes a single stone in the shoe is enough to spark a revolution. To every educator, parent, and school leader listening, ask yourself, are we designing for yesterday's comfort or for tomorrow's courage? Thank you, Russell, for sharing your vision, your fire, and your failures with us. This is Inspired. Until next time, keep learning and keep inspiring. I'll see you in my next show.